This is BC Food and Wine Radio. Now, here's Anthony Gismondi.
And our guest is Mark Sheridan. He's the president at Hester Creek Vineyards, and as we said earlier, in charge of some of the oldest vines in Canada. And so I wanted to talk to you today, Mark. Welcome to the show. I wanted to talk to you, of course, about the latest freeze and how those old vines are doing, and maybe you can explain to people why they're still old vines.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Great to be joining you. Yeah, old vines. Our vineyard was first planted in 1968, and as a lot of people know, vines tend to get old. Vineyards get old by default. They get old because they are well suited to the location, and therefore they're not removed or replanted. They do well in the environment, and therefore they naturally get old. Our viewers and listeners would sure know that if you have a fruit tree in your backyard that's not producing good fruit, you remove it and plant it with a variety that is well suited. Vineyards are no different, and so in that respect, with the cold weather that we faced over the last 2 years, certainly we are going to experience crop loss. There's no doubt about that. The degree of that crop loss is still fully to be determined, Anthony. Mm-hmm. We can do bud dissections and so forth, and get a picture, and the picture is grim. However, I need to be clear that our listeners understand that there is crop loss, which is a loss of crop for 1 year. Yeah. At the other end of the spectrum, there is actual vine death. And the cold can cause trunk damage and actually kill the vine, which means replanting the vineyard. Fortunately, because of our very good location and so forth, we have avoided that. So, but the industry is going to see all spectrums of damage.
Mm. Our guest is Mark Sheridan, president of the Hester Creek Vineyards, also someone who began his journey in wine in vineyards and knows a lot about growing grapes. Mark, I don't know if I want to use the word panic, but there's a lot of angst about the future of the Okanagan, which surprises me, even though we've had these two events. What are your thoughts about, what we're planning, where we're going, what maybe we'll have to plant? There's talk about hybrids, this, that, and the other. How do you look at the big picture?
Well, first of all, this is an understanding for us that we are first and foremost farmers, mm-hmm. and we're dealing with Mother Nature, and we're at the mercy of Mother Nature. And Mother Nature sometimes has a way of giving you a wake-up call. There are going to be lessons from this, from the winter damage. Now, when you get to minus 25 or below, there's minimal things that you can do to avoid the damage. But certainly you can put the odds in your favour. And I'm already seeing that with some of our growers, Anthony, where they're actually saying, I'm not. If they've had damage, they're looking at possibly replanting with a variety that is more winter hardy. That can be a vinifera. It doesn't have to be a hybrid. I don't believe that we need to be moving the dial 180 degrees and going full force to replanting with hybrids. We listen to our consumer, and I believe our consumer wants to drink wines made from vinifera. And we can certainly do that, and so I don't believe that having a big knee-jerk reaction and going 180 degrees towards hybrids is necessary. Is there a place for them? Yes, but we don't need to be reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. Mark, there's lots of talk about, let's talk about real foreign grapes, like from another country. I just cannot believe that we could succeed by, getting Washington or California grapes and selling them out of small land-based wineries. So what do you think about that? And in terms with that, what can you do to manage the next 2, 3, or 4 years with the grapes you have and the wines you already have in the cellar?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions there. First and foremost, the industry has spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and has been very successful in building the reputation and the quality behind BC VQA.
Right.
And our Canadian consumers, particularly our BC consumers, but our Canadian consumers certainly support that. We are at Hester Creek, we have the long-term view that we want to protect that. Mm-hmm. Now, we're facing an extraordinary circumstance here where we've had 2 years of winter damage. Personally, I want to see a preferred choice that's a Canadian solution to this.
Yeah.
That being said, far from it for me to be able to say what other people need to do to ensure their, the future of their business. Personally, I want to see a Canadian solution, and there's not going to be one magic wand that is going to solve this problem. It's going to be a multi-pronged solution. There's different stakeholders with different needs, and we need to look at all of those. But
just to interrupt you. Yeah, what I would say is that for me personally, Ontario has a surplus of grapes. Why can't we buy some from them? They're Canadians. We're Canadians. We could make a wine that's still a product of Canada. We could even, do a single vineyard there, whatever. There are many ways to get around it. And guess what? Maybe if we change the rules, we could sell them some grapes, or we could sell some grapes to Nova Scotia and, help everybody out. It seems like a no-brainer to me, but at the moment, it's not possible.
Well, I think that here are some of the positive things that can come out of a tough situation, and I think it's going to open up discussions and conversations about that. And just like you said, well, what are the negatives? What are the positives? And so to be the glass half full, which is what we want to do, we think there's going to be some positive outcomes for a tough situation. And Anthony, we're grape growers, farmers at heart, but we're resilient, and this is certainly going to have an economic impact, but we're a resilient industry, and we will come through this.
Okay, Mark, you're the CEO. What's going to happen at Hester Creek then this summer? What are you planning? How are you going to shepherd the winery through this? What are your plans?
Well, we're full steam ahead. As most of the listeners will know, the impact of not having grapes or a lower crop for the 2024 vintage is only going to impact us in years to come when we would have released those wines. And hopefully we may have a solution for that. So for this year, we've got a full slate of wines. And for those people that are listening there that would really like to, how do we help the industry? To help the industry come to the Okanagan, our restaurants are open, our wineries are open. At Hester Creek, our villa, our accommodation, our restaurant Terrafina is open. Free live music on our patio every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from May through to September. We're open for business. We've got great wines, and we would welcome the consumer coming and experiencing one of the most beautiful wine regions in the world. Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. I also want to ask you, while I have you on the line, so this is a good chance, the Golden Mile Bench, this is a sub-appellation. We now hear people in the Okanagan saying that terroir doesn't matter and these appellations are not useful, whatever. Can you tell us what your experience has been since you've had labels that say the Golden Mile Bench?
Yeah, that's a great point. As you know, the Golden Mile Bench was the first sub-appellation in British Columbia, and we are definitely, and since that, there has been a number of additional sub-appellations, and it's really the growth and the maturity and the development of the industry where we are understanding that different locations have different terroir, and therefore that has a different impact on the flavour of our wine. It's not one is better than the other. It is unique and it is different. And from our perspective, it's great where we see now people coming to the valley and saying, for the next 2 days, we're touring wineries on the Golden Mile Bench. And then next week, we're heading up and we're looking at the Naramata Bench, for example. And then we're going up into Kelowna, where people are are really, digging into their terroir, because at the end of the day, I think it's really important, and the consumer tells us that they have a connection to where the grapes are growing and understanding what makes it unique and different from other areas. So certainly seeing a lot of people focusing on the different sub-appellations and the different characteristics of each.
Mark, always great to catch up with you. They're telling me you got a couple spots left for the Hester Creek Battle of the Rosé Estate Dinner on March 8th, so we will let people know that they can check that out on the website. Really great to catch up with you. Love your attitude, and hopefully together all of us can come to some agreement about Canadian wine, BC wine, Ontario wine, and help each other out.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be some positives come out of a very tough situation. We're not downplaying that it is a tougher situation, but we are resilient, and we will continue to produce great wine.
Super. Our guest was Mark Sheridan. He's the president of Hester Creek Vineyards.
That's it for today's show. This is BC Food and Wine Radio with Anthony Gismondi.